So with the US not getting what it wants with Greenland, what will Donald Trump do next? Scott Lucas is Professor of International Politics at the University College Dublin and editor of EA Worldview. And he joins me now. Scott, good to have you back on the program for the year. Now, the political leaders we heard there of Denmark and Greenland told J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, no, Greenland is not for sale. And Greenlanders as well don't want to be part of the US. Do you see Donald Trump backing away even gradually over time?
Well, I mean, predicting Donald Trump is a fool's game because the man is inherently unpredictable. But we know that his default position is to bully, is to try to threaten folks into making concessions to him. We know that he has this personal interest in Greenland simply because he just likes to take stuff, whether it's oil or territory. What is interesting to me is it's not just Trump. And that's, if we want to project where this is going, we've got to read others around him. And you had two very different parts of the administration in the talks yesterday. Marco Rubio, with whom the Europeans initially set up the meeting, he's the adult in the room. He's the one that doesn't really want the confrontation with Europe. We've seen this also over the defense of Ukraine. Europeans think they can work with him. J.D. Vance does not believe in a U.S.-European alliance. Back in February, he made that clear at the Munich Security Council, and his people are behind the U.S. national security strategy to undermine the European Union and to support hard right governments in Europe. So which is it? Is it the Rubio wing in the administration or the Vance wing in the administration as we get into this working group, and which one of them has the ear of Trump? That's the best way to assess this going forward.
So it doesn't make the working relationship between J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio perhaps somewhat untenable if they have different views of how things should be done?
They're rivals, but they're both rivals that need to stay inside the tent instead of outside of it. J.D. Vance wants to be president and will run for it in 2028. He cannot afford to create too many political enemies on his way there. Marco Rubio does not want to be pushed out of the administration and to lose his influence, so he has nominally endorsed Vance in the 2028 election. But meanwhile, their two factions, let's call it a tense coexistence that will continue.
So the Danish foreign minister was flagging allowing the US to open more bases in Greenland, quite open to that. But would the US president buy into that sort of compromise, if it can be considered compromise, by Washington?
The thing is, you're trying to be logical here with Donald Trump, which is to say, well, you have a 1951 treaty that you have had with Denmark over Greenland. You had 17 bases at the height of the Cold War. Patuxent, the one base that remains, you can expand it at any point. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. But Trump and many of his supporters don't work on logic. They work on this superficial argument, which is only the United States can protect Greenland against these mysterious Chinese ships that have not been seen off the coast of Greenland for a decade, and supposedly against Russian ships, more of whom have been in Alaska in the U.S. economic zone than off Greenland in recent years. So in other words, the whole argument that the Trumpists make is a red herring. It's irrelevant. But you know what? They believe in that irrelevance, and they believe that Europe has to simply accept American domination, not just of the Western Hemisphere, look at Venezuela, but of the European sphere as well.
So do you believe there were, from at least the Trump administration, credible threats, intelligence that China and Russia are moving towards, I suppose, dominating that part of the world?
Not imminent threats. But if you look at what the military has said, if you look at the publicly available intelligence assessments, as the Arctic cap melts because of climate change, ironically, the climate change that Trump denies, then you have the opening up of these waterways that could be strategic. Now, China and Russia may want to move in these strategic waterways. It makes entire sense to prepare for that, not in the sense of confrontation, but in the sense of this is going to be the global situation. But you know the best way of preparing for that? Through consultations within NATO, of which the United States is a member and of which Denmark is a member. So if you're serious about Greenland security and not just wanting to steal the place, You go and you talk to NATO. That's what the Danes are saying. That's what Greenland's saying. That's what Europe is saying to the Trump people. Will they listen?
Yes, and you talked about that post-war agreement between Denmark and US that pretty much allows as many troops for the US to be deployed to Greenland as and when it wishes. What does it then sort of tell us about Trump's motivations or his other motives to acquire Greenland?
Yeah, again, I'm going to go back to fundamentals. With Donald Trump, it's ego and profit. And ego in this case is, I get to have the stuff. It's me, right? And profit, as Trump has functioned as a businessman and as a politician, is, I want your resources. We know that Greenland has these rare earth minerals. You know, most of the rare earth minerals can be found in Greenland. We know we're talking about trillions of dollars that are up there. We know that Trump and the people around him, they would like to make money off of this. It just simply comes down to that. And the geopolitical, the strategic considerations, the security considerations, those are all secondary if they're in the frame at all.
Yes. And what I'm interested to know, what do you think Moscow and Vladimir Putin would be making and interpreting this saga that's playing out in NATO?
Have a glance at Russian state TV. They're celebrating it. Every night on Russian state TV, they are encouraging Greenland to declare independence and to consider the American offer. Because if Greenland was to be split away from Europe, if the European Union was to be undermined by the US, guess who that benefits as they near the 4-year anniversary of their struggling invasion of Ukraine?
Yes.
Yeah, Russia.
Yes, and Scott, just before we go, just a quick question on Iran. Now, the president is claiming that he's been told the killings have stopped in Iran. There won't be any executions. What's your reading of the possibility of U.S. military action in Iran, whether it's airstrikes that we have seen in the recent past or something far more severe?
On Wednesday, it was imminent. We know that from European and Israeli officials that were in contact with U.S. officials. By Wednesday afternoon, it was off the table. By Thursday, it could be back on the table. But for the moment, what actually happened yesterday? Let's go back to Trump's ego. You've got contradictory impulses in a man who is, let's be honest, a bit of an egotist. One is, I want to be the tough guy. And the other is, I want to be the president of peace. As of Wednesday, it was, I'm going to be the tough guy. I'm going to bomb something. And there's other reasons why the U.S. would put pressure on Iran. By Wednesday afternoon, the Iranians had gotten messages across to Trump says, no, we're not killing people. What? No, we're not. And we're not executing them either. We'll talk to you and you can be the president of peace. And that's why Trump shifted.
Okay, Professor Scott Lucas, always enlightening to get your analysis on the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.